Hairy Movie Club, it's me Jenny, and this week's very topical and wonderful film pick was Wimbledon! Yay! And a quick review for this film is I really enjoyed it. It's been a long time since I last watched this film, so a lot of the innuendo, which completely went over my head last time I watched this, now shines bright and is hilarious. Particularly the soldiers and eggs moment was beautiful. Similarly, the way that the romance develops in this is very organic and very natural. I really like the fact that the way that these two characters, Paul Bettany and Kirsten Dunst's characters, really have this intense on-screen chemistry. So you have this relationship that you can really buy from the beginning, and it's charming and it's funny and it's light-hearted and it's very natural, so that even though technically it's a few-day romance, which usually is a trope that really annoys me, the way that this keeps it very light. Yes, it does have some cheesy moments, like the comment subplot, which was probably quite maybe my least favourite part of this, despite the fact that it does have some cheesy moments. For the most part, it's a very natural sort of relationship. You can really buy into it without it getting overtly cheesy, and throughout the film it does kind of definitely break the cheesiness that it could be. The characters are very, particularly the family, it's very eccentric in a very lovable way, and all of the characters in this are really well handled. The acting throughout is really well done. You'll recognise faces left, right and centre, including James McAvoy, which I completely forgot about, and despite the fact that his character maybe isn't the most likeable in terms of its actions, he's so charming in his own special little way that you like him being on screen. I think probably the only character that's a bit 2D is the villain, and you know, he's got to be that stereotype so you have something to bounce off of. And I like the fact that he's American, because this is an English one, so they flip that trope of the villain. As I said, Paul Bettany and Kirsten Dunst have a great on-screen chemistry. You can really tell that both of them really worked out for this role so they could have the physicality of the athletes that they're playing. Just generally, I really love the way that their characters build up, and how it's a very even and mature relationship. It's not one person hunting the other, which is a trope that really annoys me in a lot of classic romantic comedies. So I really like their relationship. I think Paul Bettany is amazing in this. He's very empathetic, and he is the classic British underdog, which is something that English people really appreciate, and it's definitely a very difficult balance to get in a film, which you've got to have the hero's journey, you've got to have the rise in order to get that satisfying ending that you really want. But English tropes dictate underdog, so he does a really good balance between doing this journey and still remaining the underdog, so we can have that balance. From a production standpoint, I really like most of the way that this is shot, particularly the way they've taken the really cliched, standard Wimbledon shots, and then added movement, and then added fast editing in order to get the action sequences, because unless you're watching a live Wimbledon game, it's rather difficult to get that sense of energy. It can become quite tedious unless you're actually in the moment, and the fact that they've really edited around it, so you have lots of variation of shots, lots of variations of speed. You go from very fast-paced shots to very slow motion shots. I love the way that they do the internal monologue. The sound design for the internal monologues is amazing, and the script is really well handled, that you've got multiple voices going on, multiple thoughts going on, brilliant lines like "shut up you silly tosser," which get pulled off expertly, and it felt very realistic. You really feel like you can empathise with this character, because everyone's got that internal monologue that just goes like that, and you have to tell your brain to shut up. It's very well handled, and it keeps the action exciting. There's a lot of really good beats for each match, so you don't feel like you're watching the same thing over and over again, which could be, especially if you're not a fan of the sport. That being said, Wimbledon is a huge part of British culture, so despite me not being perhaps the most enthusiastic tennis player, I know the rules, I know the game, and it's something that I'm minorly invested in, and I found a lot of things to be very familiar in this, particularly the eccentricities of the family. The ladies who do tennis reminds me a lot of some of my mum's tennis friends, and one sec. These two books, it's going to sound really weird, these two books are written by my favourite ever supply teacher, and her name, I don't know whether or not you'll be able to read it, is Judy Henman, and she was Tim Henman's aunt, and she was amazing. She used to do puppet shows, and she writes children's books, and she used to let us listen to the radio whenever Tim Henman was playing a match, and that was my childhood claim to fame, was that Tim Henman's aunt taught me how to do some basic reading every now and then, and she was a lovely, lovely lady. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I really enjoyed this film. The acting, the script, the overall feel is very light-hearted, very fun, and a very witty sort of story. I think if you haven't watched it, I think you will probably enjoy it. Be prepared for some stereotypes, be prepared for sometimes when the moment's getting so cheesy, they'll break it with something just beautifully funny and well-timed. For example, no spoilers, but the racket to the face in the very last section is excellent. That's about it. Feel free to do all the things you normally do, comment, and I will see you guys all hopefully very soon. Bye guys.